All right, welcome everyone to Psychic Connection, collaboration over competition. And today it is my very best pleasure to introduce you to Tracy Farquhar. Please let me know if I'm saying your last name correctly.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. Alrighty. So she's an amazing woman. She has written not one, not two, but three books, and she has many intuitive abilities. So we'll start right in and I'll ask her the questions. And, please listen in because you're in for an interesting ride today. Trust me. So, welcome, Tracy.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Phyllis.
Oh, yeah, you're very welcome. So, Tracy, like I said, you are an accomplished author and you have written three books. So, please tell us about each one, the name of the book, and what they're about.
Okay. So one of the things I do is channeling, and that's where uh, unseen entities are able to speak through me. And some of that comes across as automatic writing. So that came into my realm very unexpectedly several years ago. And so the first book is called Frank Talk, and that's an entirely channeled book. So
Mm.
it came from the wisdom that I got from these entities that I channeled. So that book was self-published in 2014, I believe.
Mhm.
The around that time, I had become a certified infinite possibilities trainer, and that's Mike Dooley's program. He's a well-known speaker and New York Times bestselling author. And I knew that he was interested in channeling, so I made sure he got a copy of my book, and he was really interested in it. And we wound up collaborating on some things. We did a webinar first together, and then we decided to write a book together. So
Mhm.
that's the second book. It's more of a question and answer format, but still channeled. And that's called Channeled Messages from Deep Space.
Mm.
Um, the third book was just a fun little project that I did at the beginning of the pandemic, just as just something fun to do on Facebook. I was creating a tarot deck using my own personal photographs. So I would alter the photographs in Canva and post them on Facebook each day. There was a different card, and
Oh,
people really seemed to like it
mhm.
and encouraged me to publish them either as a deck or as a book. It was a little easier to do the book. So that's the third book, which is called Tarot for Today.
Oh, wow. So you're a photographer as well.
Well, they're just personal photographs of my family, nothing really spectacular. Just my beautiful kids mostly, and some of me and other people.
Mhm. Okay, well, that's truly amazing. So, can we go back and talk a little bit about the book that you wrote with Mike Dooley? Like you said, he's a New York Times best-selling author. So, how did you meet him, and what was your experience like with him?
Well, so I had been following his work for quite a while before he was really well known.
Mhm.
And it just really resonated with me. He talks a lot about law of attraction and how we create our own reality and our own experiences. And it was a lot of stuff that had already been coming up a lot in the readings that I do as a
Right.
sense of truth. So it really resonated. And one day I happened to see on the daily note from the universe that I get from him
Mhm.
that he was having a train the trainer course in Orlando.
Mhm.
Uh, and I knew immediately that I was going to do that. It
Right.
was very out of character for me to do that because I'm a real introvert. So
Mhm.
to get on a plane and go to somewhere where there's nobody that I know and with a
No.
crowd of people was pretty daunting, but I was really determined.
Mhm.
Um, I did it. I became a certified trainer and I started teaching that program. And I also continued to attend these conferences twice a year regularly for a few years. So I got to know Mike a little through those conferences. And again, he became interested in my work when I showed him my book.
Mhm.
And we first started out by just doing online sessions between the two of us, where he would
Right.
ask questions and I would be channeling the
I
answers
know.
just
Right.
for just for his own
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah.
Um, And, and sometimes he would email me questions and I would, give him written answers. And so we had so much fun with that we
Right.
decided to do the book in the same kind of question and answer
That's
format. So,
interesting.
he asked some really deep probing questions, being a teacher himself
Mhm.
of spirituality and law of attraction. So there are some really interesting things in that book.
So again, you're known for your intuitive gifts, not only in the US, but also internationally. So how did foreign people find out about you? And do you find them more receptive or the same?
hmm Well, a lot of the growth of my business came from those infinite possibilities conferences. So when I would attend them, they would be all over the country and people would come from all over the world.
Oh, I see.
So in the beginning, when I first started doing that, it was early on in my career as a psychic medium, and I was only doing in-person readings.
Right.
So I would try to do as many as I possibly could at these conferences,
Mhm.
but I would also be working a conference because I would volunteer.
Right.
And, again, and as an introvert, all of that energy would be very overwhelming. So
Mhm.
I would be totally exhausted and wiped out at the end of those 4 days.
Right.
So I finally listened to my friends who were telling me to start doing phone and online readings because I
Right.
could reach a wider audience.
Yeah.
And, there were a lot of people who wanted readings that I couldn't get to in those times. So at first I was hesitant because I thought, well, how's that going to work if somebody's not sitting in front of me?
Right.
But the first time I started doing that, I realized there's absolutely no difference.
That's true.
You know?
So true. Yeah.
So energy is not confined to time and space, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I should have known that, right? But so that's how it started to grow internationally, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of word of mouth, and then of course
Yeah.
I have a website, and I'm on social media,
Yeah.
so people can find me that way.
Mhm.
But I've read for people all over the world, probably not every country, but a lot of them. A lot of European countries,
Yeah.
Australia, New Zealand,
Right.
um, Singapore.
Wow.
It's really cool that I can connect with people in
I
that
know,
way.
that's so amazing. So do
Mhm.
you find, like foreigners a little more receptive, open-minded, or are they kind of, the same as the people in the US?
Yeah, in some cases, I think they are more open. I think
Mhm.
their culture is always going to be different, even when it's an
Right.
English-speaking culture. And there are, I think, some beliefs in some of those cultures that are much more open-minded and
Mhm. Right.
positive about these kinds of things. It
Mhm.
doesn't seem to be so unusual or strange for them.
Right.
Um, sometimes it's not that different, but I think, here in America, we do have some really limiting beliefs around these things. And there's a lot of negative media and press
Right.
around psychics and mediums.
Yeah.
And while it's true that there are some frauds out there, there's frauds in every sector. So
100%. Yeah.
I think that it is becoming a little bit more accepted as time goes on.
Mhm.
And I think the scientific community is starting to become a little more interested in looking at it seriously instead of just ridiculing it. So that's going to be the big turning point when the scientific community starts to really study consciousness.
Mhm.
And they can't really refute these things that are happening.
Right.
So there's going to have to come a time where they
Mhm.
start taking it seriously.
Seriously. Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah. So hopefully sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah.
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 Um, Okay, so you have different abilities and you offer a variety of services to your clients. So please explain all of them and how can people contact you for your services?
Okay. So I um, I delineate the different kinds of readings that I do. Some people don't. Some people just offer
Okay.
them as a reading, just and just allow whatever comes up to come up. That which is fine. I just do it this way, where I offer a psychic reading,
Mhm.
which is, like I said, a connection to the energy of a person, and that person will get some life guidance. I use the tarot cards for that. I don't necessarily call myself a tarot card reader because I don't do it in a traditional way. I use the cards as more of a tool to
Right.
connect in a psychic way. So the cards help me to see that person's story,
Right.
and the intention is to give them a different perspective on that story,
Mhm.
and help them to start to move forward towards the thing that they want. Um, so that's a psychic reading. And then I also offer a mediumship reading, which is a connection to spirit. So in those readings, I'll ask the person if there are loved ones in spirit that they'd like to hear from.
Right.
And that gives me something to focus on.
Mhm.
Somehow the name of a person, just the first name, sometimes really helps me to connect with their energy.
Mhm.
So, that will be a reading for somebody who just wants to hear from their loved ones. It's not necessarily life guidance. It's just feeling that connection. And sometimes they have questions for them, and sometimes it's just they want to hear that they're okay.
Right.
Um, then I also offer a spirit guide reading, which is similar to the mediumship reading, except instead of a loved one in spirit, I'm connecting with that person's spirit guide.
Mhm.
So, a spirit guide is an unseen being, a spirit being who is working with you as a guide from the time you're born.
Okay. Right.
So I believe we have several. I believe that
Mhm.
they're from our soul family. And when
Mhm.
we decide to incarnate here, some of them will say, okay, well, we'll stay over here in
Mhm.
spirit and help you from this realm.
Right.
So what I'm tuning into is the one that's most prominent at the time of the reading, and
Mhm.
whatever energy they're about, what they're supporting, what they're helping the person with, and any advice that comes through.
Right.
Um, so in that reading, the first half is about getting to know the spirit guide. The second half, I pull cards again with the
Oh,
intention
okay.
of getting direct guidance from
Guidance.
the guide.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, so.
So I also do group readings online. So all of these readings are done by phone or online. The group readings are all online on Zoom.
Mhm.
Uh, and so that would be a mediumship reading, like I described. Um, it's not a traditional spirit gallery though, because normally the medium will just pick up on whatever energy happens to come through.
Right.
I used to do it that way, but I've changed it now where I have the person give me the name of the person they want to hear from.
Mhm.
And I guarantee that they're going to get a connection.
Mhm.
The vast majority of times it's the person they're asking for. Every once in a while, somebody else comes through,
Right.
but they can also ask to hear from a spirit guide as
Right.
well.
Mhm.
So that way everybody gets something. With a regular spirit gallery, sometimes people don't. Some people in the crowd don't get anything.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you also teach classes though as well,
Mhm.
right?
Right?
So explain a
Yes.
little bit of your classes.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned that I started out by taking classes, and
Mhm.
when we couldn't do those classes anymore because the teacher had a heart attack, I offered my home as a place for some of the people who had been taking those classes over and over at the same time I was. So we used to meet at my home every week for a couple of years. Um, and I kept resisting the idea of being a teacher because I didn't know any more than these other people. But it kind of nudged me into that role, because as much as I would
Right.
say I'm not teaching this,
Mhm.
I would wind up teaching it and presenting or researching. So it kind of nudged me into that role, and so I started teaching psychic development just on my own, and then I started offering it through various schools.
Mhm.
So before the pandemic, I was teaching at Haddon Township High School, the adult program, night
Right.
program,
Mhm.
and Camden County College. So Camden County College is where I first started taking the classes. So I'm now teaching the class that I used to take.
Full
Um,
circle, right?
yes. um, Now, of course, all of that's been affected by the pandemic.
Right.
And so, you know, throughout that, I've just been teaching them on my own.
Right.
And so the basic psychic development class is really just for people who are interested in it, like I used to be, want to
Mhm.
see what they can do, want to experiment with it, want to learn about it. We have a lot of fun. We do hands-on experiments and exercises. So, it's kind of a basic course.
Yeah.
Although I have had people who have a lot of experience take it just for the fun of it, and
Right.
just
Mhm.
to expand and meet new
Right.
people.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
that's one of the best things I think about these courses, is that people who have had experiences or believe in this stuff. They may not have anybody they can talk to about it, right?
Right,
Because,
true. That's
their
true.
family rolls their eyes at them, and,
Right,
so they're so relieved to be in a group where they can talk about things and
right.
have that community.
Yeah.
So then I also have an advanced psychic development 6-month workshop called Psychic Savants. And that's for people who either want to create a business doing this work, or they just want to really develop their skills for other work that they do, or just for their lives in general.
Right.
So it's a more advanced course, and it's a longer course, and they get coaching and meetings and practice sessions and things. Um, and then I teach other various types of workshops, the Infinite Possibilities Workshop, which is Law of Attraction. I have a course called Vibrational Awareness, which is something I developed based on the way that I, grew my skills,
Right.
just to talk about what they mean, how they manifest in people's lives. But I throw in a lot of different things here and there, just
Okay.
to have fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds fun. So now, if anyone's interested in a reading or a class, what's the best way to contact you?
So my website has everything you need to know about everything I offer, my classes, all of the sessions that I offer, and that's just tracyfarquhar.com.
Okay,
So
please
just
spell it and say it
yes,
slowly because anyone listening on a podcast
yes,
won't be able to see it.
right.
So just, yeah, very slowly.
So it's myname.com, TRACY, F as in Frank, ARQUHAR.com.
Okay, perfect. So everyone
And
watching or listening, make sure you take
so,
it.
yeah, so all the details are there. There's even links to book a reading. You can schedule your appointment online. And if you have any questions about anything you see there, my email address is on there as well.
Oh, perfect. Okay. And here's a question. Have you ever had an experience where you tried to read a person but you couldn't? Like say a medium reading or a tarot card reading?
Mhm. Well, there, there have been experiences where the person either wasn't getting what I was saying,
Right.
um, and we would stop the reading. That's only happened once or twice,
Mhm.
where they just weren't getting it. Um, I don't think there's ever been a time where I wasn't getting anything for somebody. Again, sometimes they'll get something that they weren't expecting, or
Right.
that they don't understand at the time of the reading.
Right.
When I first started, that was very hard because I would think I was making a mistake. I was getting it wrong. I
Mhm.
should just give it up. Why am I doing this?
Right.
Because the
Right.
person's saying, I don't know what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
it happened many times that person would then email me or call me later and say,
Right.
that thing you told me, I figured out what it meant.
Yeah.
And
That's it.
in
Mhm.
fact, I have a really good story about that if you
Oh,
want me to
let's
tell
hear
it.
it. Yes.
Yes. So
Hear it.
um, this was a spirit gallery. I used to have a little center near
Mhm.
where I live, and so I had a group in there. I don't remember who I was picking up for this woman, but
Mhm.
I remember that I saw very clearly a white car, and
Mhm.
I'm telling her what I'm getting. I'm seeing a white car. She said, I don't have a white car.
Mhm.
I said, okay, but it seems important. It really was a persistent image.
Right.
And and then I saw in the car some child seats in the car,
Oh,
baby seats. And she
right.
said, I don't have any children. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, but I'm feeling really strongly that these seats need to be adjusted and tightened. Like they
Mhm.
need to be fixed. And she's just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
But again, I was really insistent, and
Right.
it was such a persistent image. So it was probably a week later, she emailed me and said, you're not going to believe this. She said, the next day after that reading, I went to work. I work at a daycare. And I
Oh,
realized that the vehicle that they used was a van to transport the children was white, and it had
right.
baby seats in it, child seats.
Right.
So she remembered what I said. She went in the van and she tightened all the seats. And a few days after that, they were transporting a bunch of kids and they got broadsided by a car doing 60 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
All the children were fine.
Oh,
And she wound up with some cracked ribs.
wow.
Mhm.
Thank God she tightened everything. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah, you were saying.
So that, that really showed me that
Yeah.
I need to be confident about what
Confident.
I'm getting, even
Mm,
when somebody's saying, I don't get it. So
right.
now I will say, well, write it down, take a note, because it might become clear later.
Later. Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, excellent. So now, along the lines of advice, what advice can you give to others who want to explore or expand their intuitive abilities?
Mhm.
I ask that of everybody. I always like to hear what they
Yeah.
have. That's a
Well,
good one.
I think having a community is really important. Again, that the idea of, having people you can talk to about it, because I really strongly believe that everybody has this type of awareness, that we're
Mm,
all born with a means of connecting with energy.
right.
It's just that we are taught and it's surrounded by the idea that it's not real, that it's false, it's ridiculous, it's ridiculed by our culture,
Right.
um, and nobody wants to look weird and strange. And so,
Exactly.
normally we'll block it, or we're taught that it's bad, or
Right.
negative, or scary.
Yeah.
Um, there are some religions say that it's all coming from the devil. I've had people
Right.
say that to me, and so,
Yeah.
our culture and the way that we're taught generates a lot of fear, and also fear of ridicule. So we block it,
Hmm.
and so the, for me, it's not, I don't teach somebody how to be psychic or intuitive. I'm
Right.
helping them to remove the blocks to their own natural abilities.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and we all experience them in different ways, just in life in general. And we don't even realize that we are. If you're looking for a house, for instance,
Yeah.
you walk in, you're not just looking at the house, you're feeling the energy.
Yeah.
And people will say, I don't like the way this energy feels.
Hmm.
Or they'll just say, I don't like the way it feels here. Well, what does that mean? Well, they
Hmm.
can't really explain what that means.
Yeah.
It's just a feeling. Well, that's you tuning into energy.
The energy.
You know?
Yes. The intuition.
So when you start to recognize it as a natural part of who you are, and some people are born more highly tuned, just having a little bit of a higher frequency, more
Right.
sensitivity.
Hmm.
Just like somebody's born with musical talent.
Yeah.
Anybody can learn to play the violin, right?
True.
But
Right.
only a few people will be virtuosos on the violin,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but we can all learn to use it to just for our benefit,
Hmm. Yeah. Very
to
true.
listen to your intuition as a
Mm-hmm.
guiding force.
Mm-hmm.
you know Pay attention to what you're sensing and feeling. How many times have any of you out there got a
Right.
little intuitive hit and went, nah, that's nothing, and
Right.
then you had an experience and you went, oh, I knew I shouldn't have married that guy, right?
Exactly.
you know so it's, to me, that's the main reason I teach it, is because
Yeah.
it's not just about becoming a psychic medium.
Right.
For me, it has changed every aspect of my life,
In your life.
everything. The
Yeah.
way I raise my children,
Mhm.
the amount of happiness I have in my life, and
Right.
ease with myself, and
Mhm.
experiencing life as though everything is beautiful magic, and even the challenges,
Right.
which, I'm not saying I skip through those challenges with no cares, but eventually I can get to the point to say, well, that's teaching me something, that's showing me something. I can
Right.
sense what that is.
Yeah.
So it really does change everything when you kind of open up. You don't question yourself as much.
Mhm.
You're not
Right.
living in your head all the time.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so, create a community, take a class, read some books about other psychic mediums. Um, just start to play with your intuition,
Right. Yeah.
start little games. If you have your cell phone on you, which everybody does, next time it rings, don't look at it right away.
Yeah.
Just,
Take a
just
minute.
say,
Yeah.
get a sense, like, who's calling. It's not
Yeah.
guessing.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
no, let me tune in.
Let me
and
tune.
and and then you get instant verification, right?
Right. That's true. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Right.
Everybody can try that. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a good
So
one.
it's just little fun things, which
Yeah.
elevator's going to come first, which grocery line's going to move faster,
Right.
you know, and you don't have to worry if you get it wrong.
Yeah. It's
It's
not a big
just,
deal.
it's playing and it's having fun
Right.
and it's opening up you're setting an intention to open up to your
Right.
abilities. And so it will keep getting better when you do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Mhm.
So now we have some questions that were sent in that
Okay.
I'd like to ask you. So we have a question from Suzanne, and Suzanne would like to know, do you specifically open up to your intuition, or does it also come to you as you go about your day?
Well, for myself, I'm open to my intuition all the time,
Okay.
but I'm not open to connecting with other people psychically all
Mm.
the time. That part of
Okay.
it, to
Yeah.
me, it's kind of pulling the antenna down most of the time. It's
Right.
never all the way down,
Right.
but the intuitive part of me, I can tune into that for my own benefit at
Mhm.
any time.
Okay.
As far as doing readings, it's like as soon as I'm in reading mode, then I'm open to connecting. I don't want to connect all day long. It would exhaust me. It would probably drive me crazy.
So the second question, which is the last question, is from Penelope. And Penelope would like to know, should I start a podcast? And if so, what should it be about?
Okay, so she's asking me to tune in psychically for that.
I guess so.
um,
I guess so.
well, yeah, I can't really do a reading with just, without really at least having some connection to Penelope.
Yeah.
So, but I think what I can advise is
Okay.
for you to tune into your own intuition with that. If you're having trouble making a decision, it's
Mm.
usually because you're at war between what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And,
Okay.
we are taught to default to the thinking and logical mind,
Mm.
which, it serves us. We do need that. We have to be human and pay the bills and, everything
Right.
else.
Right.
But when we always go to that and not trust what we're feeling, that's where we start to have, uncertainty. We can get into that war with ourselves. So I would say, put yourself into a nice, relaxed, meditative state. You don't have to be in
Right.
a deep trance, but just relax. Even put your hand on your heart and breathe deeply and say, what am I sensing is the best course of action in this case?
Okay.
Is having a podcast in my highest good?
Right.
Okay. Um, what am I feeling drawn to do with that podcast?
Mhm.
What is my heart saying to me about this?
Mhm.
And really setting intention to connect with your feeling
Feeling.
place,
Yeah.
because your logical mind wants to tell you all the things that could go wrong.
Wrong. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
your heart wants to draw you to what you're passionate about.
Yeah, true. And that's great advice actually for everybody. If
Mhm,
they have a question like that,
mhm,
tune in and you're explaining how to do that and see what
mhm.
answers come about.
Right. You can also use a tool like a pendulum.
Oh,
So
yes. Yeah.
a pendulum is a way to kind of bypass the logical mind, which can be very critical.
Mhm.
But the pendulum you would just hold is just any weight on a string that can
Right.
swing. Usually it's a pretty crystal on a chain, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be. But if you work with a pendulum, you first want to find out what the yes is for you and what a no is for you. So you say,
Right.
show me yes, and it'll move in a certain way, and that's your yes.
Right.
Show me no, it'll move in a certain way, that's your no. It's different for everybody. No, you're not going to have the same yes as everybody and the same no as everybody.
Right.
So the idea is and when you ask the pendulum, and it has to be a yes or no question, clearly.
Right. Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
just another way to kind of get
Yeah.
into more of an intuitive place.
Yeah. What a great idea. Oh, thank you so much, Tracy. But I'm
You're
sorry
welcome.
to say we're out of time.
Okay.
So, but thank you so much. You answered so many questions and, really brought a lot of thought about for people and explained things very well. So I truly appreciate that, Tracy.
Well,
Really,
thank you.
very
It was
much.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. So I want to say thank you to our viewers and our listeners as well. And if anyone else has any questions they'd like, answered, please send them in to www.readingsbyphyllis.com. We will try to answer them. And Tracy, can you say your website one more time, please?
Yes. TracyFarquhar.com, TracyFarquhar.com.
Great. Thank you so much. All right,
Thank you.
everybody. Yes. All righty. So everyone, take care and God bless.